What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Muse podcast. Today is day 2 of 32 teams in 32 days, and we are talking about the Baltimore Ravens. When I look back to last year on this podcast, I predicted the Baltimore Ravens would go 13-3 last year. They ended up going 11-5. They won their first playoff game under Lamar Jackson, which I thought was huge. I kind of thought he was maybe shaking off that postseason history. They end up losing to the Bills in a pretty tough game. Lamar got a little banged up toward the end of the game, but they lost 17-3 to the Buffalo Bills. So what we're doing today is we are going to be talking about my season preview, my predictions for the Ravens, what they've done this offseason. And so let's get to it. When we look at Baltimore's addition/re-signings, we see that they brought back the Gus Edwards, Parnell McPhee, Derek Wolfe, LJ Fort, Tyrus Bowser, Kevin Zeitler, Sammy Watkins, Alejandro Villanueva, and Jawan James. All right, so pretty decent crew moving in. As far as departures, they lost Mark Ingram, Orlando Brown, Matt Judon, Ngakwe, DJ Fluker, Willie Snead, and Matt Skura. I think out of those guys, I think the two ones that jump off the page as far as departures are Orlando Brown and Matt Judon. I get the Orlando Brown thing. You're not going to pay him left tackle money to play right tackle. And I think they got pretty decent compensation for it. It's just still kind of a not great loss if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. And Matt Judon was a guy who he's not the greatest, edge rusher or linebacker in the world, but I think he was a very Baltimore guy. And I think he's a guy you can play in different styles and different ways and kind of cover up a lot of holes because he's very versatile. He kind of almost feels like a Patriots kind of linebacker. When we go to the draft picks that Baltimore had in this past draft, we see with their first round pick, one of their first round picks, they get Rashad Bateman from Minnesota, a wide receiver that I really liked. With this loaded wide receiver class, I thought he was a guy that was flying underneath the radar. He kind of, honestly, my comp to him was almost like a Derek Mason, who we saw in later career in Baltimore, where he's a guy who just does a lot of things very, very well. More athletic than you kind of think he is. Very good hands, very sharp route runner, and I think he's a guy who, I'm going to guess in his career, probably isn't going to make an all-pro team, but I think he's going to be a guy who's a constant winner and just, making the big catches in the third and sevens for his entire career. We see they got the project away from Penn State, absolutely twitched up, freak athlete, didn't have the production at Penn State, but he's a guy who, if anybody's going to coach him up, it's probably going to be Baltimore. They know how to coach up edge rushers. Example, Terrell Suggs. He's a guy that they're taking a flyer out on to get that edge pressure. They also got Ben Cleveland, Brandon Stevens, and Sean Wade. We look at the team strengths, and when I look at Baltimore's roster, their offseason, and kind of just that team philosophy is they're in every single game. And I know you can say that about a lot of really, really good teams. But what I mean by that is their running offense is absolutely dominant. It's the best we've seen in a long time, and their secondary is vicious. Not only do they have just a bunch of ball hawks back there, but you look at Marlon Humphreys forcing fumbles like he's Peanut Tillman. They're mean, they're physical, and they're a team that's like nearly impossible to blow them out. So they're pretty much in every single game. When I look at their weaknesses, of course, you kind of go to the down the field passing with Lamar Jackson. I made a prediction on the podcast last year that I thought he would take the leap in the passing game. That did not necessarily come to fruition, but if you look at it, he really didn't have a ton of talent as far as pass catchers around him. You look at Mark Andrews, who, is a tight end who's very accomplished, very talented, but I don't think by any means he can, hold the jockstrap of a Kelsey or a Kittle. And that's no disrespect to him. He just plays a different style. He's not necessarily that huge receiving threat. Great blocker as well. As far as receivers, they got Des Bryant off the garbage pile. So he didn't really have a ton of top tier talent to throw the ball to. I think they did a better job. I think they got a true number one guy with Bateman who can develop into it. They have Hollywood Brown. I think that this is going to be the season that Lamar should take the leap. Also, my other concern with the Baltimore Ravens is pass rush. You lose Judon, who, like I said, is not elite as a pass rusher, but I think he's an elite linebacker, if that makes sense, because I think he does a lot of things very, very well. Can Away come in rookie season and take some of those numbers? If you're a Ravens fan, you're hoping so. But as far as that goes, it's kind of similar to Pittsburgh. They're just lacking a little bit of depth in that area. You're hoping Tyrus Bowser steps up and really starts to eat up some of those numbers. He's been a guy who they've kind of wanted in a situational type role for his career so far. We'll see how that goes. Biggest question mark of the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't think this is really debatable, but we look at it and is if the Ravens get down 1 or 2 scores, they're down 10 points, can Lamar lead a passing attack to get them back in? So if there's 6 minutes in a game, down 2 scores, very doable. You can get back in that game. You go down, punch one in, get a stop, either kick a field goal, tied up, touchdown, tied up, win it, whatever. But you're down 2 scores. Is he that guy? And so far, no, he's not. I love Lamar Jackson. I'm a Steelers fan, but I love Lamar Jackson. And this Ravens team's fun, man. I love J.K. Dobbins. I love Bateman. So they have a lot of dudes who I'm a big fan of. I just don't know if Lamar's ever going to become that guy. I hope he does. I really hope he does. Of course, not against the Steelers, but I hope he does. Just because he's an electrifying guy, man. We've never seen him. We've never seen a guy like him. Michael Vick, not the same kind of athlete Lamar Jackson was. For my record prediction for this year for the Baltimore Ravens, I am saying they go 11-6. I think they have some questions, like I just stated, that they need to kind of figure out. And so there might be a little bit of growing pains, early, midway through the season. But they're such a veteran team, and they're so well coached with Harbaugh that I think they find a way to win a lot of those games where it's 50-50 games. They've been there. They've done it. They never feel like they're going through a transition or anything like that. They're just gamers, man. They constantly have guys ready, next man up. So I'm saying 11-6 for the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think they win the division. And I'll talk about who I think is going to win the division next episode. But yeah, I think they go 11-6 and they make a wild card spot. For my bold prediction, okay, so I'll leave you guys with this, is I think J.K. Dobbins proves himself to be one of the best backs in the league. They don't miss Mark Ingram. I think Gus Edwards is still doing Gus Edwards things, but I think J.K. Dobbins will rush for over 1,300 yards this season. And I don't think it's just going to be a guy who's just filling in. Like you look at the Denver Broncos in the 2000s, and they could throw any running back there and rush for 1,000 yards when that was still like super prevalent. I don't think he's going to be a guy who rushes for 1,300 yards because he's in Baltimore's offense. I think he's going to be a guy who rushes for 1,300 yards because he's an extremely talented running back. So I'm kind of excited for the ascension of J.K. Dobbins, and that is my bold prediction for the Baltimore Ravens, along with my season prediction. If you guys like the episode, please help support the show. Click like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.